Great. Thank you, Reed. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here to talk about some updates for our childcare regulation revisions. Very, very excited to have you all here and really appreciate that you made the time. We have a robust agenda, so I'm going to get right into it. We're going to spend some time today talking about the overall status of the revisions, just a high-level view. Review some of the concepts and directions to date for the childcare licensing regulations, and then introduce to you all the proposed regulatory structure, spend a little bit of time on that, and then learn from you if this is on the right track, and collect some of your feedback so that we can inform the process together moving forward. So, the status of the regs, we've kind of changed our slide for this because we realize this is really not a linear process. There's a lot of back and forth between feedback and revisions. So if you see between the colored boxes near the top of this slide, the arrows are no longer only going in one direction. Now they go in both directions. And that's purposeful as we engage internally and externally so that we're able to come back and do deep dives and inform the work with what we're hearing and then share out like we're going to do today. So it's extremely important that everyone is able to engage with us. We need to have your voice. Please continue to engage like you are today, and please visit the strategic portal often for upcoming engagement opportunities. There is a BRC session tomorrow. There will be additional engagement sessions on the regs and subsidy and all of the initiatives that are going on across EEC. So please continue to engage. Your voice really is important to these processes, and we consider you the experts here. So please continue, and thank you again for being here. As you see for the licensing regs right now, we're in, if you look at the blue box, so doing some internal and external engagement to really pressure test some of the proposed changes and proposed ideas that we're thinking about. So some of the concepts and shifts. Structurally, we know that we're moving in the direction of having two sets of regulations, one for home-based programs and one for center-based programs. And we also know that we intend to have two separate sets of regs per audience. So sets of regulations that apply to programs and sets of regulations that apply to educators. And so really thinking about taking the educator requirements out of program regs and having dedicated educator regulations is a significant shift for EEC, and one we're really excited about to be able to support and engage with educators directly. Some of the intentions of the revisions, we've been really clear from the get-go that we intend to promote continuous approach to quality improvement, recognizing that this is a very, very different approach to one that we've taken in the past. We are no longer thinking of the quality system as something separate from our regulatory system. We are really focusing on a continuous quality improvement mindset and really embedding quality into the regulations rather than having it be separate. And then also committing to minimizing duplication and contradiction, making sure that we have we are kind of protecting real estate and ensuring that what we're putting in the regs is clear, easy to find, and not duplicative throughout the regs or across different regulatory frameworks. Through the strategic plan, we have promised a lot of customization. And one is to customize the regulations by age group served to allow for program differences. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today. And then to create pathways for programs that may have alternative pedagogies and philosophies and structures. So any kind of alternative offering or alternative programming, making sure that we're really customizing and being responsive to a field post-COVID and being inclusive of all program types. That being said, moving along. So here's kind of the overall structure that we're proposing and sharing with you today. So moving forward, as we said, there will be 2 sets of childcare licensing regulations, one for care that happens in a home-based setting and one for care that happens in a center-based setting. And then within each of those 2, we're envisioning 3 types of licenses. So 3 license types within each of these. So if I serve only early childhood, I serve only children in the age groups of infant, toddler, and preschool, I would be part of my license type would be early childhood license. If I serve only school age, so children in kindergarten and over, I would have a school age license type. And if I serve children in all of these age groups, I would have that third option, kind of the all, which is a combination of both. And what we're envisioning, it's kind of early, but what we're envisioning is that when we go to roll this out, we would have programs, when they renew, they would apply for a specific license type. Just some of the early thinking there. But as you can see, we are really focusing on customizing and being able to capture quality and regulation all in one place through these regulations. So as we're thinking about the structure and we're thinking about the 3 license types within each, we propose that there are 6 categories of regulation. Terms of licensure, which would be the standards related to how someone would obtain or maintain licensure. Education and care of children, and that really will focus on standards related to what do children experience day to day? What are they engaging with? Who are they engaging with and how? Indoor and outdoor space, so really looking at the physical space and how it's set up and how it's safe and healthy. Looking at child health and safety standards focused on management and protocol of health and safety. A section that would focus on all alternative program structures and special program offerings. So things that not every program may offer or that certain programs may do differently would go in here. And then finally, program administration and business practices, which would focus on the program as a business, compliance requirements, and those sort of administrative standards. We came to this as a result of really thinking about what we were hearing from you all and trying to think about how we would streamline and make sure that all of our regs are accessible and simplified and user-friendly. And so as we began to think across these 6 domains, we've started to think of what we would propose for the standards, the subcategories that would go into each of these 6 domains. This slide is very, very busy, but it is the beginning of what that thinking is. So I'm going to talk through these today, and these will be the primary focus for our discussion questions today, but I'm going to spend a little bit of time. And it's really important that everybody recognizes that this is not exhaustive. This will continue to evolve as we hear from you and as we work with EEC staff to inform this work, but this gives kind of a general overview of what our thinking is so far for what will be in each of these. So in terms of licensure, we're thinking that we would cover types of licenses. So those 3, the early childhood, school age, or all types of licenses. Issuance of a license, so what is needed before EEC will issue a license, things like, is it going to be a provisional license or a regular license, those kinds of things. And then licensee responsibilities, so being very clear to articulate what are the responsibilities of the licensee, that they're responsible for program compliance, that they're responsible for timely renewal, to have access, to have a copy of the regulations accessible at all times. Thinking that we will include here approvals and exceptions. So that's where alternative compliance standards would go, pilot information would go, any exceptions during a state of emergency would go there, exemptions would go there. And again, we're organizing by program type. So that will be really helpful for providers. And then including monitoring standards. So standards related to inspection visits and reports and consumer website and enforcement and those sorts of things. So that's what where we're starting to think about terms of licensure. If you move over to the right for education and care of children, again, really focusing on what exactly do children experience during the day. So looking at including ratios and group sizes, supervision of children, adult-child interactions and behavior management, so child guidance, activities and learning experiences, so having standards for a daily schedule, what goes into a daily schedule, what are the requirements there, intentional planned activities and learning experiences, and of course, assessment of children. So developmental monitoring, perhaps, communication of what an educator is observing with families, thinking about materials and equipment for learning and routine care, and focusing in terms of, again, what are children experiencing? So are the materials accessible? Are there many of the materials so that children can experience them without, too much wait time, those kinds of things. And then family engagement, of course. So really making sure that there are clear standards around communication with families and getting input from families and those kinds of things. Moving on to the right again, indoor and outdoor space is really going to focus on the physical space itself. So indoor space and environmental safety. So what are the required inspections? What are the square footage requirements? What are the sorts of conditions that would need to be in place for an indoor space to be approved? So adequate lighting, adequate ventilation, that it's clean and that the space is arranged in a way to promote development and learning. Same with the outdoor space. So really looking at the space itself and environmental safety so that it's free from hazards, square footage, how it's arranged. And then moving down to the lower left-hand corner, thinking about child health and safety. So this is really focused again on those protocols and management of health and safety standards. So health management and protocols would include, that's where we would include administration of medication, prevention and response to infectious diseases, food safety and nutrition, all of those health protocols, and then safety management and protocols. So injury prevention, emergency preparedness and fire safety, animal safety, pets and animals, those kinds of things, all in that section. Moving over again to alternative program structures and special offerings. This is particularly exciting because this really will allow us to be inclusive of all program types in a way that we have not articulated through reg before. So thinking about standards for alternative program structures. So that is things like an integrated school and community partnership model. How can we be responsive to that? How can we be responsive to outdoor nature-based programs without creating barriers, Montessori programs without creating barriers? So really excited about that. Thinking about swimming and water activities. So again, not everybody may offer these things. So this section may or may not pertain to a program. Field trips and off-site activities, evening and nighttime care, and then transportation, which again, some programs may offer and some programs may not, but super important that we have standards in our regs for these. And then finally, moving over to the bottom right-hand corner, looking at program administration and business practices. So focusing initially on what are those business requirements that you have, a license to have a business, that you have a bank account, insurance, those kinds of business admin components to a childcare business, that we have clear enrollment procedures, personnel standards pertaining to things like the registry, qualified educators, background record checks, use of other adults. So maybe this would include a section on substitute care and those sorts of things, mandated reporting for our staff, those sorts of standards. record keeping, so program records, child records, staff records, required postings, what programs need to have actually displayed, and then all of the program policies and plans. So one of the things that we heard consistently from you is that right now, the policies and plans are in lots of different places. And so what we heard from you was that having those and notifications and things like that all in one place really facilitates your understanding and compliance with those things. So really taking what we heard from you in all of this and putting that all in one place. And then of course, department notifications would be included here too. So we're hoping that this structure is setting us off in the right direction, that the proposed domains and the proposed subcategories are right. But what we'd like to do today is learn from you. Is this right? And what changes, if any, need to be made. So I'm going to pass it over to Sarah Toast to help us get set up with our Pull Everywhere for today, and we can start our discussion.
Joy, if I can chime in while Sarah's getting set up. There's just a couple of questions in the chat just around how this will fit with QRIS and if there will be any changes in that. So if you want to speak to that while we transition, that'd be great.
Excellent. Yeah, so as I mentioned, this is a great question. So as I mentioned, we're really thinking about quality differently. We're not thinking of quality as a set of indicators that you may or may not meet in a snapshot in time. We are looking to embed quality into our regulatory system. It is a foundational component that programs are reflective and working towards continuous improvement at the regulatory level and then pursuing excellence all the way up. And so really, really different approach to how we're thinking of quality. It is very much hand in hand with the regs and not a separate system anymore. Okay. All right, Sarah.
All right, great. Joy, do you have the next slide?
Yeah.
Excuse me, that has the poll everywhere? Excellent. All right. So if everybody who would like to participate in the feedback session could choose one of these options. If you have joined one of these feedback sessions before, you should be familiar. There are three options here. You can use, if you would like to use your phone, just point your camera at the QR code on the left-hand side, and it will bring you direct to the website. You can text the word or the words early education as one word to phone number 22333. And then that will send you a reply, and you'll be able to reply via text message. Or, and I will put this in the chat, you can click on this pollev.com and you will be able to access that way. So if you are already joined, I'm going to activate this first question. It's kind of a softie, but you should be able to engage that way. And then I will share my screen in just a second. Oh, and it looks like the QR code isn't working. That is unfortunate. Let me put this in the chat. All right, hopefully everybody can see that and can join that way.
Thank you, Sarah.
And then Joy, can you stop sharing so that I can share my screen and we can see who has responded? All right, we do have a couple of responses, so this is good. There we go. All right, can everybody see? We have some chocolate, coffee, Oreo, chocolate, coffee. I feel like coffee is a theme emerging here. I can't imagine why.
Chocolate, yay, chocolate chip.
Mint chocolate chip, exactly. You and me, Joy.
Yep.
All right, Joy, I will hand it back over to you.
Right.
It feels like maybe give just another minute for folks to chime in. If you're having any issues joining, go ahead and feel free to chat me, and we'll try to troubleshoot. But I think it looks like most people are there. And so Joy, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Excellent. Okay. If we can just go to the next question then, Sarah, that would be fantastic. Here. Okay. So we want to understand from you, where are the areas that have historically or currently been represented the most struggle for you in the current regulations, and why? This will help us to know, better understand where there have been barriers so that we can try to avoid them going forward. So trying to understand from you, where are the areas that the current regs have that you have struggled with, and why? And Sarah, can we see responses? Thank you. Educator qualifications. Excellent. Standards related to the spacing of nap mats, keeping up with paperwork, making sure, so meaning of the language, that maybe the language that we use may be somewhat ambiguous. So making sure that we're clear, getting clarity and consistently when the regs are unclear, using subjective language, excellent, and contradiction, record keeping. It's hard to follow the changes regarding teacher qualifications. Yeah, so having the separate sets of regs will be welcome. Staffing and qualifications, timely responses to background checks have been challenges. There's been a lack of clarity, and many of the regulations are not very clear. Toothbrushing for full day care has been a challenge. Again, there is maybe some subjective components, so licensor interpretation, keeping up to date with paperwork, 1 year expiration dates on information, filling staff requirements with age guidelines, health and safety interpretation. So again, a lot of a theme here with interpretation of regulations, staff records checklist, some of the legalese wording. This is a really important one for us to hear, that the language itself that we use needs to be accessible and clear. Policies that are posted, gray areas. There are too many places to look for regulations, so lack of a central place. People being alone with children is sometimes unclear. Various funded training requirements that are unfunded. Staffing challenges, the ratios, someone saying infant care is desperately needed, disconnect between EEC's focus on educators versus after-school focus on youth development. The regs don't flow easily. For example, if I need to know about postings, I need to look in multiple places. So being really intentional that everything is in one place so it's easy to find. Staff, so again, age of staff. A lot of educator qualifications, staff qualifications. Thank you all. That's great. Different interpretations. Really hopeful that that all of this will be addressed with the new regulations. And consistently, not only in the reg language, but how the regulations are enforced, making sure that we have standardized protocols around the enforcement of the regulations. Ratios, the PQR, which doesn't allow for data collection, drafting of reports for licensing. So additional tracking is needed. Someone's talking about the length of the requirement for the 10 hours for a program day, clarity, educator turnover, and being very rigid. Excellent. Okay, thank you so much. Keep these coming. We're going to move on to the next question, but keep these coming so we can capture them, please. Excellent. So a lot of what we heard was about some of the things that are kind of open to interpretation. So we want to know, what are the areas in the current regs where you find that there may often or frequently be a difference of opinion in how a regulation should be interpreted? So where are those places that interpretation, ambiguity, all of that comes into play in our current regulations? The child ratios, the 6+2 license need to be changed. Excellent, thank you. Shared space, so making sure that we're clear around shared space, playground fall zones, the physical facility characteristics. So really making sure that we're including very clear standards for those. Medication forms, after school and out of school time care, early education in general, excellent. Child ratios, standards around allowing families on site, excellent. How can we be sure that families are vaccinated? General supervision for school age assistant group leaders, curriculum and behavior management, mixed age grouping ratios. Someone's asking, who is responsible for professional development? So being clearer there. The definitions. So definitely thinking about making sure that those definitions are consistent and clear. Possible hazards, so we're inclusive and transparent around there. Health and safety specifics, curriculum and learning environments. So variation in interpretation of regs based on region. So some people are finding that there's a regional difference. We definitely want to address that. Transportation, admin requirements, supervision of assistant teachers, ratios at the beginning and end of day. What does someone define as a hazard? Excellent. The physical space, clear regulations for combining children. So what exactly are the expectations and parameters around that? Yeah, people process differently, true. Shared space and use of unlicensed specialty areas, curriculum, assistant requirements for family childcare. So for FCC, if you're licensed for 10, but you only have 6 enrolled, you still need an assistant. The playground standards, again, the 6+2. The height of equipment for outside playgrounds, qualifications, standards around personal belongings, the storage of children's personal belongings being clearer, the medication regulations, mixed age groups, requirements for courses, so training and PD, certifications, excellent. The rest time requirements for different age groups, individual healthcare plans. I was wondering where that was going to come up because I've heard that one a lot. Okay, standards for school age and preschool, so being clear. Potentially some restrictions around things that programs want to use as part of a STEM curriculum. So really thinking, being thoughtful around that. Rest time procedures and professionalism. This is excellent. The physical setup of the space, absolutely everything. So being really intentional about what is being written up, what's technical assistance, what's a citation, and being really clear. And again, that comes into play with the consistency around enforcement, making sure that all licensors are conducting enforcement and monitoring the same way. Okay, excellent, excellent. Ratios for school age. Again, the first and last 2 hours of the day, a lot of shared space. So we'll be sure to be really intentional about that. This is really helpful. Curriculum requirements, use of volunteers in the program. So making sure that is really clear and consistent, and what constitutes a mixed age group. Excellent, excellent. Okay, excellent. All right. Thank you so much. Keep them coming. More training for center directors. Excellent. Keep these coming. We're going to move on to the next question. We have quite a few, so keep these coming. And we'll move on. All right. So thinking back to our slide deck for today, do the groupings of the proposed categories make sense to you? Or are there areas that you would move between categories? So for example, as we've engaged internally, we've heard from staff that perhaps inspections belongs either in terms of licensure or in admin, the business practices and administration, instead of right now, we're thinking it belongs in the indoor and outdoor space section. So with the groupings that we shared with you today, do those make sense? Are there things missing and things that you would move between categories? Someone thinks they make sense and that they'll be helpful. That's great. Keeping the categories separated for each program type. It's important that school age is separate from early childhood. Can we show that slide? Yep. Sarah, am I able to share my screen while you're sharing your screen? I don't know if I can. We'll definitely send this out. I understand what you're saying. It's hard to give the answer when you're not looking at it. I don't think I can share while we do this, but
no, there isn't, Joy, but I can share the screen back with you if you want to pull that back up really quickly, and then we can jump back over. Totally up to you.
That would be great. Yeah,
sure. Okay. So keep the responses coming in, and then when I reshare again, you know, and we are collecting all of these as well. So if you're submitting answers now, they will not get lost.
So they should be on your screen. What do you think? Are these right? Is anything in the wrong place from your perspective? And Sarah, let me know, please, when they start to slow down.
Yep, it looks like we're getting some good, thank you for putting the specifics back up, Joy, because it looks like the responses are much more specific as well.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yay.
And one thing that I did want to let everybody know is that after this session, this session is being recorded in both English and Spanish. And these recordings will be posted to the engagement portal along with a static survey. So if you, that asks all of these same questions, maybe not the ice cream one. So after the event, if you have a different thought or another thought, an additional thought, you can always go back into that static survey and provide your responses there as well.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, Joy, it looks like starting to slow down. So I'm going to move to the next question and reshare my screen.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. So this next question is really focusing on what's missing. So from your perspective, is there anything missing from these proposals that you believe should be regulated that we either haven't included in the slides today, or didn't include in our current regulations that you feel should be regulated? Is there anything missing? So excellent question. So what should we be including in the regulations? Are there standards in an area that we haven't included that we should include? Yep, we'll share a copy of the presentation. Okay. School year versus full year. So being clear about that. Excellent. I keep seeing the early education, and I'm curious if you could expand on that in one of your responses. I would be grateful to know what your
Joy, I
yeah.
think that might be folks troubleshooting, trying to submit an answer, because
Okay.
that's the code that you're supposed to, yeah. So if you're already connected, you don't have to reconnect. Your answers, if you're texting, your text answers will come right into the question that's currently active.
Thank you, Sarah. The importance of drop-in programs. Yes, so that is one absolutely that we'll make sure that we capture in our regs for sure. I'm hearing loud and clear, no more toothbrushing from people. Endorsing more teacher certification outlets. So making sure that there are more opportunities, pathways to certification, user-friendly, more specific on required staff okay, excellent, staff management, things like that. Who's doing what in a large program. Yeah, clear training for educators and licensors. And that will be a major initiative when we promulgate these regs, that there is clear training both for our own staff and for the field as well. Okay, full day and part day. ABA centers, so making sure that we're including standards for ABA centers. Excellent. Household members. Yep. There are too many online platforms, and absolutely. And so as EEC is working actively on creating a registry, and so some of that will be addressed there. And when we have those engagements, please do reach out and participate. Syncing between DESE and EEC, addressing separate EEC licensed kindergarten programs. Excellent. Too many restrictions. Perhaps a session for all together. Yep. So we all hear the same thing. So licensors are on this call right now as well. So everyone's welcome to come here to the external engagements. There was a comment there I really like, which was, how will families recognize quality? And one of the things that EEC will do is make sure that we have established what our definition of quality is. And so we all have a shared definition of quality, and we can support families in knowing what to look for a quality program. Condense and focus on necessary safety regs. Everything else should be recommended practice. Interesting. Yep. Allowing FCC family member children to have play dates. Someone thinks the regs are too regulated. Better integration of systems. Yeah, lead BRC and PQ. Clarification about what is whole day, especially with vouchers. Stronger content related to behavior management. This is really, really specific, helpful guidance. Thank you. Feedback, excuse me, thank you. So not only dealing with behavior management, but how to respond when parents or caregivers are either not responsive or differently responsive. So this is all making me think that your feedback is going to inform not only the regulations, but that other piece, that supplemental piece around compliance guidance, to make sure we're supporting you with how to operationalize this, how to implement it all. Ratios. Yep. Being more flexible with the school age educator training requirements. Youth development versus education. Excellent. Licensor training and consistency. I love this. Anti-racist and anti-biased policies and practices. Our agency is very, very committed to ensuring that we are looking through everything through an equity lens. We're doing a lot of work internally on that, and it will absolutely translate. Our intention is that it will translate through all of this work. More flexibility. What needs to happen if you do run, if you have a DCF supported child in your program. easier and quicker pathways to teacher certification. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. All right. Removing the standardized schedule EEC template and behavioral supports. This is excellent. We have a chat. If someone can, from the interpretation team, could read the chat comment. Nope. Okay. Someone feels that the early education and out-of-school time programs must all be held to the same standards. It includes public schools and alternative schools. Excellent. Everything should be in one place. Toothbrushing should be optional. Don't water down educator requirements. I would love to hear more about that at some point. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, Sarah, I'm just being mindful of the time. So keep these coming in, and we're going to move to the next question, but please continue. These are excellent, excellent flags. Okay, so with this question, we want to know overall, just bird's eye view, overall impression of the direction of the regulations that we're proposing. What is your overall impression of the direction of the regulations so far? Are we on the right track? Do we need to redirect? Someone thinks we're heading in the right direction. It seems clearer and more straightforward. Someone feels very positively about it. Woohoo! All right. I love that. Less is more. Excellent. Helpful to have it streamlined. I'm excited to see where this is going. And we really hope that as we continue to engage, you're able to see your voice in what we're sharing with you, because all of this has been informed by you. And so your continued collaboration with us has been why we're able to get where we're going. Oh, thank you. Someone's excited. I really appreciate that. Definitely moving in the right direction. The subcategories are a great idea. But someone's cautioning us, be careful. You don't want to be have too much or be ambiguous. And someone thinks it's moving in the right direction, and someone else says this could be great, but we also need to be aware of how, address the interpretation issue. Grateful to the commissioner. Yep. None of this would be happening if it weren't for our commissioner's vision, that's for sure. Excellent. It sounds, yeah, fair. Someone said, honestly, it sounds more organized, but we don't have the specifics yet, so we can't really judge overall. Fair, fair. Yes, we will remember. We will remember. It's another thing that our commissioner has led us towards is reminding us that you're the experts, and we won't forget. Excellent. I'm so glad. This is excellent. If someone from the interpretation team we have a few Spanish comments in the chat. If you could read those, that would be excellent.
Okay, I'm sorry, bear with me, please.
That's okay.
Okay, it says, you guys are very positive for us. Thank you. And to have more opportunities with the providers from FCC.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And as Sarah mentioned, we're going to continue to schedule these engagements, and we'll be sure to communicate them promptly through the strategic portal. Licensors need to be informed. Someone's asking how long before it's complete. I'm not really sure yet exactly when as I said, the process is somewhat dynamic. So we really want to take our time and make sure that we're doing this right. So our timeline may be adjusted as we go, but we think we're on track. I'm so glad. Someone said overall EEC feels more like a partner than in previous years. We're so happy to hear that. make sure that we have accessibility, when we're thinking about accessibility, more languages. Excellent. This is really great. Yep, someone's asking how will NACI fall into the regulations and quality. I don't have an answer for that yet. I think those sorts of questions will come later, but they will come. We will think about that. More educator input. Yep. This is great. The devil is in the details. Yes. Agree. Excellent. Continue to seek feedback. We will. Yep. Excellent. Okay. Sarah, real quick, is this our final question or do we have another one?
Good question, Joy. I'm not sure. Should we hit the next button and see what happens?
Yeah, let's hit the next button and see what happens.
Oh, that looks like it's it.
We're back at the flavor of ice cream. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to come back, to the large group and close us out. So if nothing else, I hope that the takeaway today is that we are hearing you, we're listening, and you are the key to making sure that we're on the right track with this work and that the work is moving forward. We consider this work a great big partnership, and we mean that sincerely. Please continue to engage and continue to have a voice at the table so that we can make sure that these regs are what you need them to be. We're messaging the same thing to licensors, the two primary audiences for these regulations. One note that I want to mention is we will be scheduling this engagement for an evening session for next week so that providers, particularly family childcare providers that maybe couldn't have attended today, will be able to. In addition to us posting the recording with the static survey, we will also schedule an evening session next week for this exact engagement. Okay, so I want to really thank you sincerely again for making the time today. I know we know that stealing an hour of your day is not a light ask, and we sincerely appreciate it. We appreciate your partnership, your expertise, and we're really looking forward to continuing to collaborate with you on the development of these regulations. So thank you all so much, and we will talk to you next time. Thank you.